Hello, my name is Lincoln and I hope you are having a fantastically whimsical day. In today's video, we're gonna be reading some books, but not just any books. We're starting a series that I'm kind of excited for because we're gonna be reading through the alphabet. The best way to read through the alphabet is to start with the letter A. So I'm gonna pick 3 books that begin with the letter A, specifically from my TBR, because I have over 700 books on my TBR. So, you know, instead of picking between the vast quantity of all the books that start with A, we're just gonna keep it small within the books on my TBR that start with A. So with that, I have 28, I believe it's 28 or 26, 20 something. I have 20 something books on my TBR that start with the letter A, and out of that number of books, I have 17 books that I have access to right now without having to go out and buy them. So I have them in my little Avengers cup here. You need to shake it up though. There's a few that I'm really interested in. I may cheat a little bit and pick one of them automatically, but I'm kind of also interested to see what we pull. Okay, let's see. Book number 1, we got it. It's a nonfiction book called All the Time in the World by Lisa Broderick. So, and like the little subtitle is Learn to Control Your Experience of Time and to Live a Life Without Limitations. So, sounds kind of cool. I mean, obviously it sounds cool to me because it's on my TBR, but yeah, not mad about that first pick. So let's pick our second one. Let's see. Here we go. Pick number 2. Okay, we have a graphic novel, Across a Field of Starlight by Delliquanti. So, a little bit of LGBTQ sci-fi action right there. And then 3, maybe 4 books. We'll see. We'll see what this next one is. And I may throw in a 4th one. Okay. So the 3rd book is Afterlife by Julia Alvarez. I'm showing you like you can see this. It's just a tiny little book cover. Okay, so we have 3 books here. We have a nonfiction, we have a graphic novel, and then we have a classic. Pretty sure it's a classic. Let's see what our last book is gonna be. I think I'm gonna go for 4. 4 just sounds like a nice, solid number for us to go for. Okay. This one. Nope, that's 2. Oh no, which one do we pick? This one. Last book is American Spy by Lauren Wilkinson. I'm pretty happy with this list of 4. Pretty happy. Hopefully all these books are top tier A-class material. I think we're gonna start off with the first book that I pulled, All the Time in the World. Because, you know, maybe it will help me unlock some time and potential that I can read more books, you know? Maybe I can read all 17 of these books. All the Time in the World by Lisa Broderick. Let's go ahead and get reading. So I started reading about time, or All the Time in the World, the nonfiction book about time. I know that. It has a really long title. Started reading it at work, and I had to stop. And I got halfway through it, and it's very interesting. I'm enjoying it, but
also, I kind of had this like secondhand embarrassment through reading it, because I know that some people would read this and think it sounds totally bonkers. And so the idea of me talking about it on a video and then people watching it, just like preparing for those naysayers to like watch this and be like, wow, they think that can happen. Weird. It's interesting having to like fight that, because I find the book very fascinating and I'm very excited to read it. It's also making me very interested in quantum physics, because it's just talking about how time is not linear. Time can be stretched and shrunk, and you can manipulate time. This makes perfect sense to me, because there are some days that I'll be like, wow, it's only 11 o'clock. Wow, it's been so nice. It feels like I've been like hanging out for like 20 hours, just peacefully relaxing. And other times, time will just feel like it's going by way too fast. It makes sense. But this is the type of book that I kind of want physically, so that way I can reread parts, fully grasp it, because it's just, there's a lot in it. And it's not a lot of repeating concepts. It's a lot of new information. At least for me. I'm enjoying it. We'll see how the second half goes. But so far, so good.
So I finished the book All the Time in the World, and it's very interesting. By the end of it, it was more talking about it felt like it was talking more about like manifestation practices and how to like bring things into your life in essentially a more timely manner, which I guess does mean, you have more time when you have the things that you are looking for, and if you're able to get them quicker, you are gaining more time. So I guess it makes sense. But yeah, a lot of it was just like rooted in a lot of like meditation and manifestation, and the author was able to really break it down and make it make sense. And so I like it. If I want to implement some of this stuff, I'm gonna have to like reread sections of it. So maybe I need to get the book so I can highlight it and look at it. But again, it's very woo-woo, it's very out there, which I embrace that kind of stuff, but I do know that there's a lot of people that don't and would probably judge people that do embrace it. But at this point I can't really care about other people and how they perceive me. I can only care about how I perceive myself. And so now we're gonna start with American Spy by Lauren Wilkinson. I've started listening to it like a little bit, just like maybe like 30-40 minutes of it, just while I finished off some stuff I had to do at work. And so far so good. Very interested to see where it goes. But yeah, right now just sitting outside with Mowgli, enjoying nature and the temperatures, and drinking a poppy. These are really good, especially the watermelon flavor. Highly recommend. It's a very nice day out, so we're gonna enjoy it a little bit. I've been embroidering, listening to the book, and I figured I would pause and update you, because I think in the last clip I said I had just started listening to it but hadn't gotten that far into it. Now I'm a good ways into it and I'm really enjoying it. The narrator is one of my favorite narrators of all time, Bonnie Turpin. So good. Every time she narrates a book, I'm like so excited. My excitement level just like goes up. That's a plus. So we're following this mom who is writing this book, or like telling this story to her kids, and how she is essentially a spy for the American government, working in that area against people in like, I'm thinking like around like the Black Panther movement and stuff like that. I don't think she's specifically targeting that movement, but she's talked about the Black Panther movement and like how spies were used to take down that from the government from the inside out,
you know, it's really interesting, really fun and enjoyable. The only downside is I'm having to like start and stop it at work because I want to be able to update you on my thoughts while I'm reading it, versus like if I was to just be listening to it straight through for like an 8-hour shift, I could finish a book in a day, or I do finish books in one day. It's a little frustrating, but it's not that big of a deal. I'm mostly just like bouncing back and forth between books.
I don't know if I've already updated you or not, but I think I have. I think I've updated you to the point of where we are. It's mostly in this book just talking about her and her sister's relationship right now. So my views on this book have not changed, but I'm going to be listening to the book some more while I work on a rug. This rug has been sitting in in the room where I have it stored for like months at this point. So we need a new rug for the office because we got a new chair that is very, very swivelly, which is great, but also like a little annoying. So I'm gonna be putting a rug just so that way it's not on the rug, but it's like the rug is behind the chair, so it doesn't just like push back super far away from my desk without me really wanting to. I was originally wanting this Madame Leota rug to be like my entryway rug. This is just gonna be an office rug, and I'll make another rug, or I'll make another rug later and put that in the office and move this one to the entryway. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm also filming a video of this rug making process. I've been filming it since I started this rug so long ago. So if you want to see how that goes, you can check it out there. But just want to let you know that, or I'm listening to the book while I do crafts, which is my all-time favorite thing to do. I finished American Spy. I finished it while I was finishing up the rug. I'm not going to show you the rug. You can watch that video if you're interested. That video should be up before this one, so you can go check the Madame Leota rug out in that video. But I'm really happy with how it turned out. I also enjoyed the book quite a lot. I think I'm gonna give it 3 stars though. It was a good book. I enjoyed it, but I don't think I'm gonna be like thinking about it or really like remembering parts of it in the future. And that's one of the things that I look for when I'm rating a book 4 or 5 stars. I was also a little confused about why exactly, what exactly the bad guy was going to be gaining from what he was doing. It didn't exactly make sense. And then it just, the ending was not the ending, but like coming to an end, to the conclusion of the story, was just slightly confusing. So that was also something that maybe if I wasn't so confused, it would have gotten a better score, but I enjoyed listening to it. It was Bonnie Turpin, one of my favorite audiobook narrators, if not my favorite. It was really enjoyable to listen to, and yeah, not really anything bad to say about it except for I was slightly confused. That's one thing when it comes to like books that I rate like 3 stars. A 3 star is like, I didn't hate it, I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it a good bit. And so like, I don't really have a lot to say on the 3 stars usually. So sometimes it doesn't feel like a very fulfilling review. Now I'm going to be moving on to the 3rd book, and it was supposed to be Afterlife by Julia Alvarez, but my hoopla is being really funny, and I've tried to figure it out with my library of why it's not letting me check out books on there. So I've tried contacting them and we've tried figuring it out, but so far it hasn't worked yet. So I don't have access to any of the books on Hoopla, and that was one of the books that was only available on Hoopla for me to listen to. So I don't have access to that book, and I don't want to either wait around until it gets fixed or just only read 3. So I just picked another one of the books that's available right now for me to borrow, and that begins with an A. And so I picked AntiGoddess by Kendra Blake. I think that's their last name. Yeah, we'll be listening to that one instead of Afterlife. So hopefully the switcheroo is okay and I don't regret picking this book. I'm a little over halfway through the book. I was wanting to update you sooner, but I was listening to it while I was at work, so I'm not gonna bust out the camera and start being like, hey guys, here's my thoughts about the audiobook I'm listening to so far. I'm not gonna do that. My coworkers already give me enough strange looks at some of the things I say. I don't need them giving me anymore. It's fine. This isn't the update that I want to be giving, especially for a book that I picked out and the cup didn't pick out. But essentially we're following like 2 groups and they've now kind of combined, sort of. But we have the gods and goddesses and then like these teenagers. But we soon find out that like they're connected and it's not just a group of teenagers. But essentially the gods and goddesses are dying. They're dying and we don't exactly know why or how. Or we know how, but we don't know why. We don't really know what's going on. And it seems like they don't even know what's going on, but they're all starting to kind of fight each other and turn on each other to try to stay alive a little bit longer. But the main gods we're following are Athena and Hermes. And then on the other side with the teenagers, one of the teenagers has like visions and can sometimes see the future. And so that's how they kind of come together. Not going to give too many spoilers because I am a lot further of the way into the book. It's a decent book. I feel like I probably would have enjoyed it way more when I was younger. It did come out in 2013, so it came out right in like the perfect time for when I would have loved it. But I still think I'm going to continue on unless something drastically happens in the last half of the book. I think I'm going to continue on with the series. I am interested enough to see what happens, what goes on, and things like that. Not awful, but also not amazing. Just kind of mildly intriguing. I finished AntiGoddess. I forgot what the book's name was for a second. I was like, it has to begin with an A, because that's what this video is. So I finished AntiGoddess, and I'm definitely going to continue the series. Like, I went and just immediately borrowed the next book because it was available, but I think this is gonna get a 2-star. So like, I don't really know what's tying me to getting the next book, because it's not like it's a badly written book that I just like enjoyed, you know, like it being like a guilty pleasure. But it also wasn't a book that I'm like, that's fine. Like, it's not how I feel about typical 3 stars. It's definitely less than that, but I'm still kind of curious about what goes on. I don't know what I was expecting from the ending. There are some things about the ending that I wasn't expecting. Some things I was, but but also it wasn't like a blow me out of the water plot twist or anything like that. This is a very interesting book. Like I said, I'm going to continue listening to it. I went ahead and picked up the second book, so we'll see how that one goes. And of course, the one that I pick out myself, because the one that I pulled out of the drawer doesn't work, is like one that I'm kind of like, womp womp. Not that amazing. Either way, we got another A out the door we got another one of my TBR books read, and this one's been on my TBR for a little bit, so I'm okay with it. And now it's time to read our last A book, which is Across a Field of Starlight, which is a graphic novel. So I'm excited about that one. I'll have to just find some time to cozy up and read that. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Hopefully I saved the best for last. So I started reading Across a Field of Starlight, and it's okay so far. I'm about like 70 pages in. It's kind of hard to like discuss graphic novels because most of the time there's a lot of pages and it's just a lot of pictures that aren't really like telling that deep of a story until you get like further into it. You kind of have to see the whole story before you can really like think about it, or at least that's how I work. But the art is really pretty. I'm enjoying looking at all the pictures. I'm a little bit confused on the sciencey stuff or like the magical tech. It's not magic, it's sci-fi, but it's like, you know, like not based in our reality type sci-fi. So it's a little bit confusing on that part, but I don't know. It seems very sweet so far, and I don't really have anything good to say or bad to say. I'm just enjoying it, and I'm very interested to see how it progresses because our two characters are in like an empire galaxy-wide war. One of them is, but the other one is like neutral. So I have a feeling something is going to happen with that, but it will be interesting to see exactly what happens with that. So hopefully I can finish it today and we'll have all the answers. I finished Across a Field of Starlight, and I don't know. It took me a really long time to read this one. There's only 2 updates for this book, but like it took me so long to read this book, and it was a graphic novel, which does not take long. Like, it's not a heavy, thick, dense book to like kind of get through. So I just kept starting and stopping and like just reading a few pages at a time. And then finally I was like, I don't really have much to say, but I'll update. And then it continued, and feeling the same way. I don't know what I'm going to talk about, so I'll just put it off, wait until I have something to say. Hopefully it turns around. But it's finished, and nothing did change. I'm going to give this book 1 star. I don't really know what I was expecting. I think all I knew about this book when I put it on my TBR is it was a pretty cover. It was queer, and it was sci-fi, and so I was expecting, I don't know exactly what I was expecting, but it wasn't this, and it kind of felt like it had 2 or 3 storylines, but those storylines didn't mesh as well as they had hoped. At least not for me. I was very confused about some of the things, why they were happening. And that could just be a me thing. It could just, like, this book could make complete sense to everyone else, and it's just, my brain has been turned off the entire time while reading this book. So, it may be me, but it's still, you know, my rating of the book. So even if the misunderstanding and, like, kind of the enjoyment or lack of enjoyment is my fault, it's still my rating, so I'm just gonna give it a 1 star, and it's kind of a bummer to end this video on a 1 star. Whoa, this is way better light. Maybe it's a little too bright. If I lower it a little bit. You don't need to see everything crystal clear, but I
opened up my laptop so that way we can go over the books that we read for this, because I kind of need a little bit of a reminder since it's been a long time since I've read some of these books, because it took me so long to read this last book. But we had All the Time in the World by Lisa Broderick, and I enjoyed this one. I still think about this one a lot, and not in like a sense of like my life has been changed from reading this book, but it just gives me things to think about and to kind of like implement and like give me some anxiety around time and like getting to do the things I want and like focusing on stuff. Like, it's just helped me in little ways, so I appreciate it. And then the next book is American Spy by Lauren Wilkinson. I gave this book 3 stars. I believe I gave this book 3 stars, and it was good. I enjoyed it. It was a very solid read that I'm happy I finally got to, and that I could check it off my list, and that it wasn't that big of a disappointment. And then we had the book that I picked myself, AntiGoddess by Kendare Blake. I picked this book out myself because I could no longer get a hold of The Afterlife by Julia Alvarez through my library and stuff like that. So I had to find something else. So I picked AntiGoddess by Kendare Blake, which is the Goddess War book 1, and I gave it 2 stars. But I remember saying that I was like, you know, I'm still kind of interested to where this series goes, so I'll pick up the next one. And I did, in fact, pick up the next one, and I gave it 2.75. So we went up, and I did enjoy that one. If my library ever gets a hold of the 3rd book, I'll definitely read it, you know? So, like, a 2 sounds bad, but it was just, like, I feel like it's one of those books that if I'd read it when I was younger, if I'd read it when I was, like, when it originally came out, which would have been when I was in high school, I would have loved this book. So I feel like the appreciation and enjoyment I had from this book was from like rereading a book that I enjoyed when I was younger, and I don't have the same level of enjoyment, but I still like had a fun time reading it. So I feel like that's where that one is. So I still it was fine, you know? I can appreciate what was there, and I actually did, through reading the AntiGoddess, and then obviously the second book from Kendare Blake, I finally picked up another book that I have by this author that's been on my TBR for a long time, 3 Dark Crowns, and I've loved that series. So, like, it's not part of this reading vlog, but I've already read through that entire series from them. So I feel like that in and of itself makes the AntiGoddess like a win in my book, because I finally got to read 3 Dark Crowns, and I've enjoyed it. So a win is a win. And then finally, the last book, Across the Field of Starlight, a 1 star, which is a bummer to end the video on, but it is what it is. So I'm gonna put the average star rating that the A's get. I know it's only 4 books that have an A that start with an A, so it's not an amazing representation of what the A's from my TBR bring to the table, but it's how we're gonna do it. So with this average star rating, we'll be able to compare all the other letters of the alphabet and see where they hold up. Maybe A will be on top for a while. I mean, if we're being honest, I kind of hope not, because I would like some 4 and 5 star books within what I'm reading. That's the true goal we're all hoping for when we read, is to read our next favorite book. Doesn't always happen, but that's the goal. So hopefully the A's do not stay on top for long. Not because I hated all of them, but because we just want better. We want some 5-star reads. But only time will tell. So thank you so much for watching. If you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought about them. Or if you're going to read any of these books, best of luck. Hope you enjoy them. Or if you're just gonna, if you like watch this and you're like, I'm gonna do that. I totally give you permission. I tag you, I challenge you, whatever you need to start reading through the alphabet with your TBR. Let's break down those TBR numbers together by reading through the alphabet. So I hope you have a fantastically magical day. Stay cozy, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.